The city of Chennai is grappling with its worst water crisis in years. Schools, offices, restaurants have all pressed the panic button now. Reservoirs have completely dried up and residents are forced to buy water from tankers. The opposition DMK has now called a statewide stir on June 22nd, even as Chief Minister Edeppadi Palaniswamy claims that this entire crisis is merely exaggerated.
Chennai is grappling with an unprecedented water crisis. Water has run out of taps, reservoirs are bone dry. Residents are struggling, relying completely on water tankers.
A water tanker comes every alternate day or even more sometimes and distributes water to various houses. We are in a prime location in Chennai, in Nungambakam, and even in this area, what the locals tell us is that they have to go block water tankers on the roads, and only then does it come here and distribute water.
On Wednesday, the Madras High Court pinned the entire blame on the crisis to the AIADMK government's mismanagement. The High Court sought details of how many lakes had been desilted after the deficit monsoon. But Chief Minister Edeppadi Palaniswamy called it a manufactured crisis.
இந்த ஊடக நபர்களும் பத்திரிகை நபர்களும் அரசுக்கு துணை நிற்க வேண்டும். ஏதோ ஒரு இடத்தில் ஒரு பிரச்சனை அது பெரிதுபடுத்தி தமிழ்நாடு முழுவதும் இன்றைக்கு குடிநீர் பிரச்சனை இருப்பதை போல ஒரு மாய தோற்றத்தை தயவு செய்து ஊடக நபர்களும் பத்திரிகை நபர்களும் வெளியிட வேண்டாம் என்று அன்போடு இந்த நேரத்தில் கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன்.
The Chief Minister's comment triggered a political flashpoint. DMK workers hit the streets, slamming the EPS government for not being able to gauge the problem when it could have been tackled. Chennaiites were up in arms as each day brought more misery in their lives.
We have booked about nearly 1.5 months and we have not yet got the water. And no reply has come. When it will come like that?
The government is giving such a false information to the public. I booked my lorry on 23rd May. I am yet to get. Still they are delivering water for 10th of May.
The government says the monsoon failed them and they are doing their best they can. But experts blame the consecutive governments for their dismal attitude in handling better water management practices that has led to this particular situation. In Chennai, with video journalist Daniel, Lokpriya, India Today.
Now, as I said earlier, in this edition of Burning Question, we're going to be focusing on finding a solution to this water crisis in Chennai. And these are the questions we're putting forth. Is there an urgent need to reduce the dependence on groundwater in the city of Chennai? Is there a need to reduce the daily usage by half to avoid day zero, as Chennaiites are even grappling right now for water? Is there a need to change agricultural patterns in the state of Tamil Nadu? Are netas misjudging the enormity of the water crisis that we're dealing with here? And finally, is it a lack of political will that's bringing day zero closer, not just to Tamil Nadu, but across India? We've got on joining us on this broadcast, we've got Mr. G. Sundararajan, an environmentalist, as well as Mr. C. Rajashekharan and Suvansi Raman, all of whom are joining us from Chennai. I want to first go across to Lokpriya for the latest updates, because Lokpriya really has been travelling across the city of Chennai and getting us ground reports of what the situation is. But before that, Mr. Sundararajan, I started off this entire discussion saying that the last city that should be having this kind of an unprecedented water crisis is that of Chennai. It's got abundant water resources, and yet today, here we are. Every citizen is struggling to ensure that they have water because groundwater is completely depleted, because of the encroachment, the lack of desiltation. All of that has brought us to this discussion today. Do you think it's right when the government goes ahead and says that the reason we're seeing this water crisis is only because of a deficit monsoon?
Last year, which is supposed to be a year of deficit, Chennai and its surroundings roughly got about 800 millimeter of rainfall. Considering that Chennai has expanded till Arakonam, which is roughly about 8,000 square kilometers of total area, and if this average about 1,200 millimeter of rainfall falls in this about 8,000 square kilometers, it means it is about 330 TMC feet of water. Chennai's requirement is 1 TMC feet of water every month. And Chennai's 4 major water bodies, the Cholavaram, the Pundi, Red Hills, and the Chembrambakam, if it is desilted fully and it's to full storage, the capacity is about 11 TMC feet of water. So I am not talking about the small lakes and ponds which are available across the different parts of the city. I am not talking about that at all. If we have desilted all the major 4 water bodies in and around Chennai, we would have got about 11 TMC feet of water. Other than this, lot of thousands of small water bodies in Chennai, Kanjipuram, Tiruvallur. If we had all desilted it, maintained at full capacity, we would have easily got about 200 and 220 TMC feet of water. I mean, we need only about, including Chennai, Kanjipuram, Tiruvallur, we may need about 25 TMC feet of water. So where have we lost it? In a year where we are saying we are a deficit monsoon year, we have got about this kind of rainfall, 800 millimeters in Chennai alone. Bangalore has an average of 860 only, and whenever there is an 860 millimeter rainfall, they never say it is a drought or whatever it is. So it's purely mismanagement and purely apathy towards this water management techniques, water management issues. We are in this situation now. And I would also like to add what you said. In the entire country, roughly about 60 to 70 crore people are facing this water shortage for the past about 2 months' time.
Yes.
This should have been the major election issue, but we diverted this narrative to Pulwama, to Balkot, and many others.
Completely agree. Yes.
75 crore people of your nation are struggling for one pot of water, and you are not, and your election did not even discuss one single second about it. I think the apathy of the politicians towards the water management, to the water crisis, it's completely clearly visible.
I completely agree with you, Mr. Sundararajan. I think more proof was that in the statement that Edeppadi Palaniswamy put out yesterday, where he says this crisis is greatly exaggerated. I want to quickly go across to Lokpriya as well. Lokpriya, you've been on the ground. Tell us, is the situation exaggerated by the media, or is Mr. Palaniswamy just not seeing what the reality is on the ground? And also the point that Mr. Sundararajan put out, can you give us a sense of whether there was any desilting, any dredging of reservoirs before the summer, after the monsoons?
Well, Akshita, first things first, the Chief Minister's residence and his cabinet of ministers at Greenways Road in Chennai probably receives a steady stream of water supply. That is the reason why he says this entire water crisis is blown out of proportion. He needs to simply step away and come just to about Arepuram, just a throne's throw away from his residence, the next neighborhood, and he will be surprised to see that people living in even posh apartments to the slum areas are suffering from water crisis. This is a situation that has hit every class of people. And when it comes to where everything has gone wrong, we had our expert, Mr. Sundararajan, clearly point out the government's failed mechanism in terms of desilting water bodies. A lot was talked about desilting of water bodies and removing encroachments along the riverbanks. When the 2015 floods happened, there was some kind of activity for about 6 months, and then everything died down. So this kind of a knee-jerk reaction is what the political class always responds to when it comes to water crisis problem. There is no permanent roadmap, because this is an important problem. The fact that so many millions of people do not have water and they are bracing it out in the summer months for about 3 months is not a joke. And the government needs to wake up and address this situation on war footing, instead of telling that the media is blowing this issue out of proportion.
Absolutely, Priya. Mr. Sumansi Raman, the Chief Minister may claim all is well. The situation on the ground in Chennai, whether you talk about Nungambakam, Chrome Pit, OMR, where my family resides, I know there's a serious water crisis there as well. So the reality on the ground is that there is a scarcity. I want to, of course, take this also away from the blame game, because you can't blame one political party. Every party is responsible for doing this.
Look, from the time I've been in school, 3 decades ago, I've heard the same thing being said. We should stop encroachments on water bodies, we should desilt the reservoirs. It hasn't happened significantly enough to solve the problem. That is why we need to think differently. Chennai is a coastal city. The problem is, the solution is directly in front of us. Already today, despite this severe scarcity, what is keeping the city going is only those two schemes, one to bring water from Viranam Lake and the second is of course the desalination plants. Two more desalination plants for the city were announced in 2015. I keep coming back to this like a broken record again and again because you need to look at permanent solutions. Desilting, of course I agree with Mr. Sundararajan, it has to be done. Encroachments on water bodies will have to be removed. Nobody is arguing about that. But we've been talking about it for 30-35 years and things have steadily gotten worse. The city is expanding. You need a permanent solution and it is staring us in the face. The two plants which Ms. Jayalalitha announced when she was Chief Minister in 2015, the work has not even been started. We are in 2019. One went into a court case, another went in for environmental clearance, which got delayed. Then subsequently, the work for one is supposed to start next month, one is supposed to start end of this year. But had those two plants been completed in this 4 years' time, today, let me assure you, Chennai would not have had half the crisis that we are having today. Even if you had desilted water bodies, even if you had removed some of the encroachments, you could have definitely solved the problem to some extent. But that is not a permanent solution. There is global warming, there is climate change, the monsoons are becoming increasingly erratic. You will have to move away from merely being solely dependent on monsoon rainfall to a technology based solution, which is what desalination is. The amount of money it costs is zilch for the state.
No, but my problem with this is, Mr. Sumansi Raman, my problem is that yes, I think we've reached a point where we can't rely on the monsoons, we can't rely on the groundwater because, you know, it's been exploited so much by this water mafia and illegally that it's beyond, you know, our repair now. But having said that, why has it taken so long for the government? Even now, weeks ago, they've gone ahead and announced mini desalination plants. Shouldn't they have done this before?
That is my point, the point I keep coming back to. If this was announced on the floor of the assembly in 2015, I can understand if it is not completed, if it is nearing completion, there are some construction delays, one can understand. 4 years have passed and the construction work has not even started on either of them. That is what is shocking. If today the city faces this crisis, I would squarely blame the fact that these two projects have been delayed. Had even the 400 million litre plant been commissioned, see, let's look at the logic of it. 1000 to 1200 million litres is the requirement per day. Currently, the two existing desalination plants are giving about 180 million litres a day to 200 million litres a day. Viranam scheme is temporarily giving us about 180 million. We don't know how long that will continue. That depends on the inflow into Mettur. Now, if you had these additional 550 million litres, that is more than what the metro water is supplying today. So you can imagine if just these two projects, I know there are environmental concerns, but you have to find a way of addressing them. And here it is the question of the larger good for nearly 10 million people. And you have the solution. See, Bangalore is not so fortunate. They cannot go and do desalination.
Yes.
Chennai can do it. And we are not doing it. After having announced it, after having got the loans for it, we are still not doing it. I mean, it is a tragedy of monumental proportions. And squarely, I am sure that the state government will have to take the blame for not starting the work on the desalination plants. That is, in my opinion, the only permanent solution at this point of time.
No, but I maintain, Mr. Sumansi Raman, that you can't just blame one party. Every party is guilty of hobnobbing with this water mafia, allowing this kind of exploitation of groundwater that's led us to this discussion today.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. C. Rajshekharan, do you agree with Mr. Sumansi Raman that now we can't afford to depend on groundwater anymore? We can't afford to have any dependence on groundwater because that's been exploited so much, and the only answer right now are desalination plants that possibly will take a few more hours because it's clear the government doesn't see this as a priority.
Akshita, first and foremost, I want to charge both the DMK and the ADMK for making this water scarcity because of their inefficient governance. And I want to also make a startling revelation on your channel that 130 direct water supply pipelines have been given from metro water filling point to 5-star hotels and VVIPs of Chennai city. 130 direct 24/7 metro water supply is going now. I want the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, through your channel, to immediately order for the disconnection of those direct supply water lines to the five-star hotels and the VVIPs. The common man is stranded without a single bucket or pot of water. Even for drinking, you don't have water in Chennai city and suburbans. And now we are talking about responsibilities. We are talking about the duty of the government. We are talking about the failure of the government. So all this should be kept aside. First, disconnect those lines. Point number one. Point number two, this blame game is there. As rightly pointed out by my friends on the panel, this blame game of ADMK and DMK, and the common man is still suffering. We are paying the tax, the metro water tax is collected, all other tax, for everything you collect money, and now you are saying we are not able to give you water. The metro water department books online water supply, and 1 month, 1.5 months, they don't give the water to the people, the residents. What is the government doing? And nobody is bothered. And the Chief Minister comes on TV channels, and the local administration minister comes on TV channel and says that there is no water scarcity. It is all media managed stories. But it's ridiculous. This is not media managed. This is the harsh truth. The people of Chennai and the outskirts don't have single drop of water. As the phrase says, water, water everywhere around Chennai. We have got 660 kilometers of coastal belt, but we don't have single water to drink. What is happening?
And
Nobody
you know, when there are obvious questions that will be asked. When there's an abundant monsoon, why aren't steps immediately taken to ensure that that water is also conserved, to ensure that we are in a state that if there's a deficit monsoon, we're fully prepared for that situation? SP Velamani says, Mr. Sundarajan, that this is only because of deficit monsoon. Edapadi Palanisamy says that this is being exaggerated. The DMK, I believe, has no standing to come out on the streets and protest today because they also did not do anything to tackle this crisis when they were in power. So every Neta is guilty today.
Akshita, may I come in for a second?
Yes,
see, the maximum encroachments of ponds, lakes, and everything was and is done by the DMK members.
Let's be very clear. This is a mafia. The mafia that's
ADMK,
thriving because of our political parties.
The ADMK also. Both the governments are responsible for
absolutely. Mr. Sundarajan, I want to come back to a solution here. Are desalination plants the solution? Because there are a lot of question marks over it because of the environmental concerns. And is that a hurdle the government will really be able to cross?
See, when technology comes to the foreground, science goes to the background. Desalination plants are technological solutions. At best, technology can be enablers, and they can be a solution. There are a lot of issues with desalination plant, like the cost is very high, and if you have to convert 1 liter of seawater into drinking water, roughly you have to use about 25 to 30 liters of seawater, and the rest of the water goes back into the sea with double the time salt. It carries a lot of chemicals, and when it gets discharged into the ocean's life gets disturbed. The fishermen livelihood get disturbed. So again, we are getting into a vicious cycle. So the science clearly says, catch where it falls. That is science. And if you really want to use technology to come out on a short-term basis, there is a recycling technology, recycle of water technology available with Chennai Metro Water today. And every day, Chennai produces about 1,000 MLD of wastewater. You can always recycle it, retreat it, and give it to the people. There's technology available. And the cost of desalination is very high. And secondly,
what about these mini desalination plants that the government has announced?
Let me finish it off. The desalinated water cannot be used directly also. It has to be mixed with the surface water, and then only it can be given to people. So, the desalination is a technology. It can never be a solution. Science can only bring a solution. Science clearly says this catch where it falls. So, desalinate your lakes, desalinate your ponds. And
yes,
right?
Mr. Sumansi Raman, yes, Mr. Sundarajan, Mr. Sumansi Raman has a counter. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. Akshita.
Yeah.
Akshita, there is a difference between being idealistic and being practical. Mr. Sundarajan is being idealistic. Look, in 40 years, we have not been
all your technology, all these years have been brought climate change and global warming, which is the reason for this.
Allowing people to build on lakes.
All technologies, like, your
yes, one at a time, Mr. Sundarajan, just hold on. Let Mr. Sumansi Raman finish his point.
Can I finish?
Just hold on, Mr. Sundarajan. Mr. Ramgood.
look, at the end, the water that Mr. Sundararajan is probably using today, half of it is coming from the D2 desalination plant. So he must remember that. Without that, we would have been worse off. Look, nothing comes without risk. Nothing in the world comes without risk. The question is, are these acceptable risks or not? 1 second. Look, we cannot, and it is absolutely impractical to say that we will go and raise and demolish thousands and thousands of buildings which have been put on all these lakes. Who is going to do it? Orders given by the courts are flouted with impunity, asking for demolition. Mr. Sundararajan will know hundreds of cases where court orders are given and the authorities don't carry out the court orders. They connive with the person whose building is to be demolished because of massive corruption, and this is across India. So while I agree with him in principle, yes, if we desilted all the water bodies, if we removed all the encroachments, it will be great. But the point is, whichever government is in power, DMK, ADMK, whoever comes to power, the local guy at the ground level is going to make his money and allow these things to happen. Unless you change that, unless you give, that's a much larger issue, Akshita, and I can't see that happening overnight. The solution is, until you get your act together, until the water bodies can be, brought into some kind of shape, you need to keep this, you need to have a solution. By the way, the costs of desalination are consistently going down. We have the technology, we have already announced the plans, and now we are not building it, we are waiting because of bureaucratic delays.
Akshita,
so I think the funding is there.
That is my point, that at every step there's some corruption or some delay.
Wait, 15,000 crore. 1 minute. Akshita, 1 minute. 15,000 crore to solve the water problems of 10 million people. You have built a metro rail phase 1 which has cost 24,000 crore. Don't you think water is more? I'm not saying transportation is not important, but isn't water more important than that?
Yeah, and
15,000 crore to solve the whole problem, for God's sake. Do it, and do it now.
And ironically, the metro rail is also suffering because there's no water.
This kind of saying, I will go and remove encroachments.
Akshita, I have a point to make
Mr. Rajshekharan, yes, go ahead.
So Akshita, there is a solution. It is staring us in the face, and we are refusing to do it.
Akshita, both Sumant and Sundararajan are talking about the future. But today, at this moment, Chennai city is suffering without drinking water. What is the solution, immediate solution for today? Let us be pragmatic in understanding the situation. I agree with both of them. All these works have to be done. It will take a couple of months or 3 months, 4 months to do some new ventures. But what is the immediate solution? Who is going to attend to this? The Chief Minister is saying there is nothing, no water scarcity.
Mr. Rajshekharan, then I have to ask if we have to face the reality that right now we don't have a solution simply because our netas have failed us, and that we just have to deal with this water crisis for the next few weeks. Is that the situation we're in right now? Yes.
You hire big, huge tankers, get water from the outskirts districts or adjacent districts and supply it to the Chennai residents. That is the need of the moment. Need of the hour. Why are you making all sorts of claims that there is no water scarcity? Everybody is fine. We are like Singapore. We are like Canada. The talks made by these politicians makes the common man more angry towards them. Let's stop this and understand the reality and let the government act in war footing method.
No, so there is a nexus, Mr. Rajshekharan, at every step, whether it is in encroachments, whether it's in desilting, or for that matter, even in the water tanker. That also is a deadly mafia that the people of Chennai are suffering for. No, but I want to agree with you on one point. I just want to quickly get an answer from Mr. Sundararajan. Is there a solution for today, for now, to deal with this crisis?
For today. For this,
yes, definitely we have got a solution to deal with it now. The problems of today, the OMR, the old Mahabalibam road, alone gets about 7 crore liters of tanker water every day. Every day, I'm saying, just the housing complexes alone. So where do they get from? None of the mineral water companies, none of the aerated water companies, or none of the liquor factories have brought down their production because we are facing a water crisis. None of them have done that. You go to the shops, whatever mineral water bottles or aerated drinks, or go to the liquor shops, it's all full, the racks are full. they have not brought down the production. So where is the water coming from? The OMR alone gets about 7 crore liters of water every day. Where is the water coming from? So we have a solution for today. But the problem is our management becomes a permanent solution. This is just a management.
There a serious water crisis in OMR also? In OMR also there is a serious water crisis. Water tankers are coming there 25 days late.
Yes, I don't deny that. No, I don't deny that. But I am saying the high-rise apartments of OMR are getting roughly about 7 crore liters of water through tankers every day, I'm saying. I'm not denying the slums and the people who live in the other residential areas are facing problem. I don't deny that.
No, but that's because they're paying extra, Mr.
So people
Sundararajan.
shouldn't live in OMR.
Exactly. So government should intervene and said the government should take over the distribution of water.
No, I think
why OMR alone? The whole Chennai city is suffering without water.
Not only OMR. I've unfortunately run out of time, and I think what we can only agree on is the fact that it's possibly too late to find a solution today. We have to now focus on tomorrow. We have to focus on the future and see how we can ensure that next year we don't have a similar discussion on the water crisis. Perhaps for Chief Minister Edeppadi Palaniswamy and for the government to really wake up to the crisis at hand, you need to ensure that they face the same plight as every Chennaiite. Greenways Road cannot be a VVIP lane where water supply is given every day and there is ensured that water is provided there and in these 5-star and 7-star hotels. That nexus and the water mafia will have to be dealt with, will have to be addressed for there to actually be a change on the ground. I thank Mr. Sumansi Raman, Mr. Rajshekharan and Sundararajan for joining us. Thanks to Lokpriya as well for getting us that ground report on the situation really in Chennai.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.